As Naruto fans, we don't gotta sugarcoat it, okay? The Sharingan got a lot more love in the show than the Bakugan did, and that's okay, right? Sasuke was the basically secondary main character, so obviously his dojutsu is gonna get a lot more love. But for those of you that watch past Naruto Shippuden, the Bakugan did actually get its own version, so to speak, of the Mangekyo, also known as the Tenseigan, and that's what we're talking about today. Now, I'm going to give my usual prerequisites here. This class mod is really strong. If you're going to give a class mod to one person, you're probably going to need to give a buff/class mod to the other players in your campaign as well. Otherwise, they're just going to take over, and they're probably going to have a lot more fun than the other people are. For this one, though, the nice thing, unlike some other ones, it does allow you some early game utility. You can give this one a character level 5, which is pretty low compared to some of the other ones. Something like the Mangekyo Sharingan really shouldn't come out till a little later, because of how powerful it is, whereas this one starts off a little lighter. So you can actually give this one prior to, if you have an Uchiha in your campaign, giving them the Mangekyo. Let them build up their Tenseigan, the Uchiha Eye, right? The Sharingan naturally builds up through its tomes, so then their eyes are both kind of building up as your campaign's progressing. Now, for those of you that haven't watched the last Naruto the movie, you might not even know what the Tenseigan is, and as I kind of said, it's the Bakugan's version of the Mangekyo, kind of that evolved variation. If you want to read through, you can read exactly what it is in terms of Naruto lore. Again, per usual though, I always highly recommend that you cater this ability towards whatever your story is. Maybe the Tenseigan doesn't really make sense to have this higher almighty power giving this eye. So instead, make it like, oh, hey, they just trained really hard and got it. Or maybe some evil inside them awakened and created the Tenseigan, right? You can always flavor it however you want, but the Naruto lore is there if that's what you want to follow. Now, getting into our first section here for leveling up, I'm skipping the gaining because we kind of talked about that before. Make them gain it how you want to make them gain it. But for leveling it up, it's a little different than some other things rather than your usual XP or even the usual system that a lot of people use of merit-based leveling. This one's going to be used directly by actual usage of the eye. So it explains right here, you're going to roll 5 plus 2d6. And that 2d6 is going to add to how many times you need to use your celestial arts in order to master them and buff them up, show your actual proficiency with them. So it's kind of unique, and I appreciate that this one directly encourages the use of it. A lot of class mods in Naruto, like the Jinchuriki class mod, things like the Mangekyo Sharingan, they tend to have punishments for using them because they are so powerful, which is understandable, you have to balance them, but this one's nice because it actually encourages the use of it, and the more that they use it, the more they're going to start to master those abilities. So, what does the Tenseigan do? Well, it does a few things. Now, for starters, again, I want to mention, it's not super strong combat heavy when you first get it, so don't be afraid to give this to your players a little earlier on. It's not going to completely break your campaign or anything like that. But when you do get it, to activate it, it's going to be 10 chakra, and you're going to get it for a single minute. Now, later on, once you hit second level with it, you do get it for 10 minutes, so don't worry about feeling like it's a pretty short time. When it deactivates, it's either by your choice as a bonus action, or once your chakra or celestial chakra, which we'll go over later, hits 0, it will also deactivate it because you can't maintain it anymore. Now, as for the things that actually happen once it's active, you're going to get 3 visual prowess things, so to speak. For these visual prowesses, the first one's going to be perfect vision. This gives you 120 feet of true sight. And for those of you that don't know what true sight is, it's broken garbage, okay? You get 120 feet of knowing where everything and anything is within that radius. So be wary of giving players true sight. Access to true sight can really break certain encounters, so keep that in mind. With perfect vision also comes immunity to blindness, and the fact that your vision cannot be impaired by anything. I mean anything. Important to remember as a DM. Secondly, you're going to get otherworldly sight. When you get this one, I would flavor text this one for whatever your campaign is needing, because as it reads, it lets you see in between the living and dead worlds, lets you see celestial tears, pocket dimensions, things like that. So your campaign might not involve any of those things, so maybe let them see some kind of special form of chakra or something that helps them, right? You never know. And lastly, when it comes to celestial oversight, you get 1,000 feet of chakra sight, which is absolutely absurd. Not only that, but you can see through up to 50-foot thick material. That's insane. So even if there is a 50-foot thick stone wall in front of this person, they can see through it because of the special eye. So again, while it's not super strong combat-wise, it's important to remember as a DM, if you slap this person into a maze, they can activate this and get 120 feet of seeing exactly what all the walls do. So just something to think about. Next thing on the list to talk about is going to be your Celestial Arts. And your Celestial Arts are basically your special jutsus that you're going to get access to whenever you have this Tenseigan active. Now, to use these arts, it's going to use something called Celestial Chakra, which you're just naturally going to have. And it's kind of nice because you're not going to have to worry about this one like building up in a special way. You get some at the end of every rest. I believe a short rest gives you half, full rest gives you like all of it back, right? That kind of idea. So it's not something that you have to actively be like gaining back. You just get it naturally. Whenever you use these Celestial Arts, they're going to have special DCs, they're going to have special attack bonuses because they want them to be powerful. That's kind of the point of them, right? Now, I'm not going to go through every single one because it would take a while. And honestly, I think exploring them for yourself is always fun. It's always a good time getting to see what kind of really fun, unique jutsu-esque things you get access to. It's important to keep in mind as well, you don't get access to all of them. You get a very limited pool. At the beginning, you only get 2 known Celestial Arts, and then each level after that, you start to get another one every single time. Now, like earlier, I mentioned you're going to have to use the eye to level things up. Well, there is a downside. They can't just let you infinitely use the eye, otherwise it would be utterly ridiculous. But I personally believe, and you can read through the chart to kind of judge for yourself, that it's really not as bad comparatively as something like the Mangekyou is punishing for using it. And this is going to be your Celestial Strain. Now, the Celestial Strain stuff, basically for every 3 Celestial Chakra you use, casting regular Hyuga Jutsu, or every art you cast, is going to give you a little bit of this strain, a couple of ranks. Now, at the start, it's very simply like losing maximum hit die, -2 penalty to some different types of checks and saving throws, which isn't the end of the world. As you get higher, it starts to get pretty painful and you start to take damage, things of that nature. So be mindful of that, but also know that it's not nearly as punishing as some other dojutsus and honestly some other class mods are. Now, once you hit level 2, your Tenseigan is going to become the Reincarnation Eye, which is basically the nickname for it, but it gives you a few extra powers that are pretty unique. For one, when it's active, you're going to be able to see some interesting information. For one, you can see people's names, you can see what they have reincarnated as, you can see tears in your reality, you can even see if they lie to you and if they belong on that plane of reality. So some very cool story roleplay information. Additionally, you learn how to do something with celestial energy, which basically what's going to happen is you're going to take an action and start absorbing this celestial energy. And every turn, you're going to absorb more and more of this energy. And you can start to do a couple of things. It depends what you want to do. One, you can kind of buff you and your allies with a bunch of temporary HP all at once. Cool. Another thing you can do is if you die in combat, and this includes even really bad ways of death, such as decapitation, dismemberment, things such like your soul getting taken out of you, you don't. And that's one really cool thing about this, and that celestial energy that you were absorbing then is poured back into you in your life. And per usual, you can, flavor text this how you want. Talks about your body being like destroyed and regenerated in an instant. Whatever, flavor text it how you want. Another thing you can do this for is other creatures that have died. And if they are within 10 minutes of that death, you can then imbue them with this energy and basically relive them, in other words, and do the same thing you would have done to yourself with that energy. But as I said, the downside is you're going to have to roll 4d4, and you can't use this ability again for that many weeks after you do it. And yes, I said weeks. That means at bare minimum, you're losing it for a month. And at a maximum, you're losing it for 4 whole months. So understand that when you do this ability and you use it, it better be the right time to do so. Now, when it comes to these class mods, I'm a real sucker for the things like the Chibi cloak and things like that, right? Where you get to put the golden Naruto cloak on and kind of go ham jabroni in whatever that special mode is. And this has that as well with the Celestial Chakra mode. And this, it's going to be a bonus action. You're going to pop it, and for a minute, you're going to have that special cloak of your, design and all that good stuff. But basically, you're going to gain a bunch of benefits. We're going to talk about here. Your Taijutsu ability score becomes 24. Your speed gets doubled. Cost reduced. Save DCs go up. Attack bonuses go up. Cool. We love that. Awesome. One thing that is very important that I think you should recognize before using this class mod is that it's not your strength modifier or ability score going up, but rather your Taijutsu ability score. So your Taijutsus and your fighting is going to go up, but understand that your strength does not go up, which usually isn't going to matter. But things like strength saves, things like your carrying weight and stuff like that, your bulk if your campaign is following and using those rules, isn't going to be affected by this. So just keep that in mind whenever you're using this, that your strength number is not going up, but specifically your taijutsu modifier. And finally, the last thing that we get to talk about here are the Celestial Truth Orbs, which are kind of similar to the Truth-Seeking Orbs you get whenever you're like, you know, the Ten Tails Jinchuriki situation, Kaguya abilities, whatever, we don't gotta get into that. But you're gonna get 6 orbs. These things will not reset until you do a long rest once you spin them, so understand it's not like you can regen them in a battle. Once they're gone, they're gone. But it basically just gives you access to more actions, bonus actions, and reactions that you can do. The reactions are nice little defensive options. The bonus actions and actions tend to be some kind of unique attacks that are very strong and powerful, but again, are very limited as to how many times you can do them. So if you want to read through there, feel free. It's basically just a few different things you can do. But hey, that's the last of your abilities. So there you have it. That's the Tenseigan and all of its cool arts and abilities and things you can do with it. One last thing I want to put out there before I leave for today is if your table wants class mods, because who doesn't? They're cool, they're fun. But y'all are a little iffy because some of the class mods are a little intimidating, lots to read, very scary. This is a really, really solid one to start with. Because as I said, it doesn't super heavily affect combat and tends to be a little more roleplay. And all the systems meld and work really well together. You're not juggling different resources. You're not trying to perform this balance act of like, how do I do this but not put too much strain on myself? And it's not like the Jinchuriki where you're worried about team killing your entire party off rip. It's a lot simpler and a lot easier for the groups that are trying to figure out their way through Naruto 5e still. So nonetheless, if you have any questions, leave them down below. I try to answer what I can. Please sub to the channel. It means a ton. It's free, and it's just really cool when you do it. But besides that, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.